Hello and welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to be discussing how to maximize the cost-saving potential of your PV system. The key thing we should be focusing on is self-consumption of energy. So this is taking the energy that's coming from your solar panels through your inverter and making sure that we're using that on site to power up our loads. We don't want to be sending it back to the grid because that is a less cost-effective way of managing your PV system. The best thing to do is to store it for later use in the day, or to be powering other devices like your heating or your battery for your electric vehicle. So let's start with the inverter. What is a solar inverter? Well, the job of the inverter is to convert DC solar energy into usable AC, which can be distributed around your property and maybe fed back to the grid. It also protects the grid from any faults that might occur with your solar system, and it protects your solar system from any faults that may have occurred on the grid. Also, it is the main source of information on the performance of your PV system, so you can understand how much energy you're generating and any faults that might be occurring. Also now it's important to consider that the inverter provides most of the control and distribution of energy around your property. A cost-effective way to improve your self-consumption is to use a device such as the Wattpilot, which is an energy diverter for heating. So this device can work 3 kilowatts single phase or 9 kilowatts 3-phase and provides stepless energy diversion. So depending on the amount of surplus energy, it's able to use pulse width modulation technology to increase and decrease the energy diversion into a hot water cylinder. It can also be used for underfloor heating, infrared heating panels, or any device which is a resistive load. It can also be set with a temperature sensor so that you can set temperature targets. For example, if you want to be having a hot shower in the morning, make sure that you have the water at 40 degrees at 8 a.m. The Wattpilot obviously integrates with the inverter, either using RS485 or using Wi-Fi or LAN connections through a router as well. So whether the inverter is right next to the Wattpilot or if they're in the opposite ends of the building, there is a solution for connecting those devices together. So with the Fronius Reserva battery, you have comprehensive integration into the Fronius energy management ecosystem. We have a one-stop shop so that you can purchase all of your products from the same place. You can also then receive all of your technical support from our team in Milton Keynes. Any services or exchanges can be done through the usual channels for inverters and other components. And we have automatic commissioning. Because it's a Fronius device, designed exclusively to work with Fronius inverters, you don't have to set it up in a certain way to provide the right protocols. It's all ready and waiting to go. And of course you have the full visualization of the battery within our SolarWeb platform, so you can see the state of charge, the power levels for charging and discharging as well. And also in future, when new features become available, you can push firmware updates for that battery through SolarWeb. And of course, it's a Fronius device, so all of the data for the system is managed through our European-based servers. There's a number of key technical advantages to the Reserva battery. Of course, it's a DC coupled battery, so the energy is flowing straight from the solar into the inverter and then into the battery. We're not converting to AC and then back to DC. It's also a high voltage battery, which means we don't have losses bucking and boosting the voltage. We're feeding pretty much directly from the inverter to the battery, meaning that we have a high level of efficiency. Also, there is no wiring between each of these modules. They're a plug and play design, a bit like Lego blocks that you build up in a stack. And of course, we're using lithium iron phosphate technology. So it's a safe, robust, long service life product. And if you want to be installing more than a single stack, we can parallel connect up to 4 stacks of batteries using a daisy chain method. No combiner boxes needed. We simply use the in ports and the out ports that are built into the side of the battery. In terms of the stack sizes, with the single phase units, we can have 2 or 3 modules. And with the 3-phase installations, we can have 2 up to 5 modules, giving a total power of 15.8 kilowatt hours. And great thing as well is that we can expand the system at any time. So we can start with that single stack of batteries, we can expand with extra modules or entire extra stacks at a later state. So my colleagues at Fronius International have put together a video demonstrating how to install the battery. It's a very simple process. First of all, we start with the base plate. Obviously make sure that that's on a secure level surface. You can then add each module in turn. As you see, there are no wires to connect these modules together. And then we have the small brackets on either side, which make sure that you have a secure connection between the modules holding the device together. You also have the small brackets that fix the battery to a wall. You can then, of course, connect the DC connections, the LAN cable, and the earth to the device, and then install the plastic covers around the outside of the device. It's a really simple process to get this battery installed. So when you've got your battery and your inverter, you might want to consider backup solutions for your system. And we have a number of different ways of providing backup in the event of a grid failure. First of all, we should have a look at the solutions that are built into the inverter themselves. So these would be our PV Point and PV Point Comfort solutions. PV Point is built into every single Gen 24, whether it's the standard unit or the Plus variant. This is a dedicated outlet circuit which can be used to power a wall socket or maybe a small dedicated board. It provides up to 3 kilowatts of power single phase. That circuit will only become live when the grid supply fails. When the grid is reconnected, PV Point will then be disconnected and you'll need to plug any devices back into the main AC supply. Of course, this might not be convenient. If you're going to be away from home, you want to keep your fridge freezer running, you won't be able to plug that in manually. So we produced the PV Point Comfort board, and that fits into the inverter, and it means that we can switch from grid mode into PV Point backup mode and keep any devices on that 3-pin socket permanently powered up. Moving on to full backup, we have a number of options available. What we normally recommend doing is installing a device between your main incoming supply and the essential loads. This means that we're switching part of the load on site, those essential devices that you need to keep operating. Devices such as EVs, heat pumps, and non-essential devices will remain switched off in the event of a failure. First of all, we have our backup switch 3PN, 3P meaning 3-phase, N meaning neutral. So we're switching up to 3 phases and a neutral connection. And we can use loads of up to 63 amps for this device. It's a manual device, so we simply switch from the grid supply through the permanently off and into the backup modes. It requires, of course, manual reconnection. So when the grid is reconnected, you need to switch back to the grid supply mode. The next option we have is the backup controller, and this will be available as a 3PN version as well. And it provides you with up to 35 amps of switching capacity, and it can work in single or three phase. This time it's an automatic solution, and again it is DIN rail mounted, so potentially can fit into a dedicated backup board supply. With this, of course, you have lower switching, so it means that you need to really only put in those dedicated backup circuits onto it. Perhaps your ring mains, maybe your lighting circuits. But if you wanted to be backing up the entire house, you can do that using third-party devices. We have our manual switch 100 amp device from Wind & Sun, and that device can fit directly after your Fronius smart meter and be switching up to the whole load for the entire site. If you need to have an automatic changeover, we can do that too using the Westminster Controls automatic changeover box. And this device has been developed so that we can connect at the main incoming supply. We can then switch 50 amps of backed up loads with 50 amps of non-essential loads as well. So let's have a look at those backup options again. We've got the inverter integrated options, PV Point, which you need to plug devices into when there's grid failure, and PV Point Comfort, which will automatically switch between grid and backup modes. We have the manual switch, the backup switch from Fronius, the 3PN device, which can be used for up to 63 amps. And of course the Wind & Sun device, which provides 100 amps single phase or three phase. And of course we have those automatic changeovers from Fronius. The backup controller 3PN will be available from July 2025, and also the Westminster Controls Complete backup solution. Moving on to the next step in our product portfolio, we'll look at our EV charging solution, which is the Wattpilot Flex.
Your world never stops moving. Your life never stands still. You grow each and every day. Feel the pulse of time. Broaden your horizon. Use the power of the sun, night and day, 24/7. Each ray of sunshine moves you forward, gives you energy. Every step, every drive, every corner is an opportunity. The future belongs to those who keep going. The future belongs to you. Wattpilot Flex, future driven.
So the Wattpilot Flex has a number of new features. First of all, we have the LED ring on the front of the device, which provides you information on the energy source for your charging. In yellow means that the energy is coming directly from solar, green means that energy is coming from the battery, and then white or grey means that energy is flowing from the grid. So you can have an understanding of how you're powering your car, how you're charging, and where that energy is coming from. We have, of course, our RFID tag so that we can securely start a charging session. We're not going to be allowing the neighbours to come and freely use your charger. And we have got that matrix display as well, which shows you numerically the power and the energy that has been used for charging your vehicle. You'll also see that this is a tethered device with a 5-meter cable connected, so you have easy installation, easy charging for your vehicle. The device has also been designed with a new backplate, which allows the cable to be mounted from the top, the back, or the bottom. We also now have Wi-Fi and LAN connectivity, ensuring that you have the flexibility and the ease of installation that you need for your charger. The device comes with a number of different modes available for charging your vehicle. Eco mode means that you can use just surplus solar to charge your vehicle. This is ideal in summer months where you have a lot of surplus energy available. It means that the device is constantly increasing and decreasing the power at which it's charging your vehicle, to mirror the amount of surplus energy available on site. For three-phase customers, the device is also able to switch between three-phase mode and single-phase charging. Of course, there is a risk that on a grey, miserable day, or on a day when you're using a lot of energy within your property, you don't actually charge anything into your vehicle. So we have our next trip mode. You tell the Wattpilot how much energy you want to be putting into your vehicle, and it will, where possible, take surplus energy from the grid, and when necessary, top it up overnight from your low energy price. Of course, we can set different prioritization for the different devices within your property. So for example, you want to keep your battery charged up to use within the property. You don't necessarily want to be discharging the battery into your EV vehicle. You can tell the system to charge the Reserva battery up to, say, 90% before you can start charging the car. Likewise, you may want to have a hot shower in the morning, so you will want to heat your hot water to a target temperature before charging the vehicle. Again, you can set those targets within the system. So of course, all of this energy data is available and integrated into our SolarWeb monitoring platform. Of course, any energy flowing into the battery will be shown in green, so you can see how the battery charges up as the first priority. We're then able to heat our hot water, and you can see in red on the graphs where the energy has been diverted through our own pilot into our hot water supply. We can see in grey where energy has been exported back to the grid, and in purple, of course, we can see the energy that's going to our Wattpilot EV charger. So you can really understand all of the energy consumption within your property, understand the best ways to get the most for your money, ensure that you're consuming your solar generated energy directly within your property. So we have a number of software controls for our system as well. We can talk to the inverter using our phone, either through the Wi-Fi access point on the inverter, simply by pressing that optical button and then taking our phone, connecting to the Wi-Fi access point and communicating directly with the device. We can also communicate with the inverter through our home network. So as long as our phone and our inverter are connected to the same network, we can scan through the Wi-Fi router in the property and talk to one another. And now we can also communicate with our inverter through the internet remotely anywhere in the world. So we can either use our phone to make basic changes through the SolarWeb app, or we can use the SolarWeb website to make more comprehensive changes. First of all, the very simple battery control solution is available in the app. So all we need to do is scroll to the bottom of the app, the main dashboard view, click on the start button, and this will force charge the battery. Over time, the battery will charge up, and once it's full, it will sit there locked, unable to be discharged until either you press the unlock button or until there is a grid failure on site and that energy needs to be deployed to back up the house. Full remote access is also available from SolarWeb. So we simply go to the dashboard of the main browser version, we go to settings, we then go to components, and next to the inverter's data source, we're then able to press the three buttons, which takes us to actions. We can then go to the device settings and open a interface to the inverter. It will take a few seconds, but what will happen is the inverter will be able to communicate over a secure network connection, and you'll be able to start programming that device. Maybe you want to change the time of day that the battery charges. Maybe you want to set a threshold for the backup energy to store in the battery. Those sorts of things are possible within the remote access option. So let's have a quick summary of what we've seen today. Of course, the most important part of the system is the Gen 24 inverter. Whether it's the non-battery connected standard device or the battery-enabled Plus unit, they can still be used with the other energy management solutions from Fronius. The new Reserva battery, which fits with the Gen 24 Plus, is available right now and available as a modular system that can be built up depending on your customer's needs. We have those various different backup options available, whether it be the PV point built-in options or the externally installed backup controller and backup switch. And of course now remote configuration is possible using your SolarWeb login. You can then enable various different features from the internet and ensure that your inverter is up and running. And of course the remote configuration option is now possible through SolarWeb. So you can configure your battery for time of day use, maybe for setting those threshold limits for backup modes. So just like to say thank you very much for your time today. If you have any questions, please put those into the questions panel on your screen and we'll answer those in the chat. Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you on some future projects.